By March 9th, 2026 communities across parts of the Ohio-Indiana border region were still dealing with the consequences of powerful storms that swept through the area only days earlier. The severe weather struck during the night, when a slow-moving system dumped intense rainfall across southwest Ohio and southeast Indiana, transforming calm neighborhoods and rural roads into scenes of emergency response. Residents awoke to flooded streets, stalled vehicles, and emergency lights flashing in the darkness as rescue crews rushed to assist people caught in rapidly rising water. In several communities, storm runoff quickly spread across roads and into low-lying properties, forcing first responders to carry out overnight evacuations and water rescues. Authorities reported that multiple incidents occurred almost simultaneously, as drivers became trapped in flooded roadways and families found their homes surrounded by water. The dangerous conditions prompted emergency crews to deploy rescue boats, search teams, and additional support units to assist those in need. The same storm system also produced intense lightning, which triggered a house fire in the Cincinnati area, adding another layer of danger during an already chaotic night. Although the worst of the weather has passed, officials warn that flooding impacts can linger long after the rain stops. Swollen waterways, saturated ground, and damaged infrastructure continue to pose risks as communities begin the process of recovery.
I don't know what to do. I don't think I can drive through that to get to my house.
The flooding emergency began during the late hours of March 5th, when a powerful line of storms moved through the Ohio Valley, bringing intense rainfall across portions of southwest Ohio and southeast Indiana. Meteorologists said the system produced several inches of rain in a relatively short period of time, quickly overwhelming creeks, roadside drainage systems, and small waterways throughout the region. As the rain continued overnight, water began collecting in low-lying areas and along rural roadways where drainage capacity is limited. In some locations, runoff from nearby hillsides and fields flowed directly onto roads, creating dangerous conditions for drivers traveling in the dark. Local emergency dispatch centers soon began receiving calls from residents reporting flooded intersections, stalled vehicles, and water approaching homes. In several areas, roads that were normally dry became temporarily submerged as stormwater spread across pavement and ditches filled beyond capacity. Officials warned that flash flooding can develop quickly under these conditions. When heavy rain falls faster than the ground can absorb, water has nowhere to go except across streets and into nearby properties. Even small creeks can rise rapidly when drainage systems become overwhelmed. Authorities reminded drivers to avoid crossing flooded roads, explaining that moving water as shallow as 6 to 12 inches can stall a vehicle or push it off the roadway. Despite these warnings, some motorists were caught off guard when water levels rose faster than expected during the overnight storms.
Here we go. Look at my feet.
One of the most dramatic moments during the overnight flooding occurred in Millville, Ohio, a small village in Butler County, where rising water surrounded several homes during the early morning hours. As runoff from the heavy storm spread through the community, residents began noticing water moving quickly through streets and yards. Shortly after midnight, emergency responders received a report that a family was trapped inside their home along Walnut Street, where floodwater had already covered nearby roads and driveways. With water continuing to rise and standard vehicles unable to reach the property, firefighters from Ross Township prepared for a water rescue. Rescue crews launched boats to access the flooded area and safely reach the house. Navigating through dark streets and partially submerged roads, responders were able to approach the property and assist the occupants. A family of 3, along with their 2 pets, was carefully evacuated from the home and transported to a safer location. Fortunately, no injuries were reported during the rescue. Local emergency officials later said that much of the village experienced temporary flooding during the storm. But water levels began dropping once the heaviest rainfall moved out of the area. Residents in Millville described the situation as developing very quickly. What started as a typical night of rain suddenly turned into a situation where homes were surrounded by water, and emergency crews were arriving with boats to help people escape the rising floodwaters.
December 24th, 2025.
As water continued spreading across rural areas during the storm, several drivers found themselves trapped when floodwater covered sections of road that normally remain safe to travel. One of the most serious incidents occurred in Morgan Township, where a motorist became stranded after attempting to drive through a flooded stretch of roadway. Emergency dispatchers received the call for help at approximately 1:15 a.m. along Race Lane, where storm runoff had already begun flowing across the pavement. The driver reported that her Chevrolet sedan suddenly lost power after entering deeper water than expected. Within minutes, the vehicle stalled and water began rising around it. Emergency responders quickly arrived at the scene and assisted the driver out of the vehicle before the situation could become more dangerous. Thankfully, the motorist was not injured and was safely removed from the flooded roadway. Authorities later confirmed that this was not the only vehicle affected along that same road during the storm. Earlier in the night, another car had also stalled in deep water nearby. In that case, the occupants were able to exit the vehicle on their own and were picked up shortly afterward. Officials used the incidents as another reminder of the risks associated with flash flooding. When heavy rain falls quickly, water can collect on roads faster than drivers expect. Even relatively shallow water can disable a vehicle, leaving motorists stranded in conditions that may worsen rapidly during severe weather. As emergency crews continued responding to flooded roads and homes, another unusual call came in during the early morning hours near an industrial site in Butler County. Authorities received reports that several individuals living in a makeshift encampment might be trapped by rising water behind the Sunoco Energy Facility along Yankee Road. Witnesses reported that heavy rain had caused water to spread across the wooded area behind the plant, where a small group of people had been staying. By the time the call reached emergency dispatchers, the water had already risen to about knee-height, raising concerns that the individuals could become stranded if conditions worsened. Firefighters from Monroe and Middletown, along with emergency crews from Trenton, responded to the scene. Because the area included dense vegetation and limited visibility, rescue teams deployed a drone to scan the surrounding area and locate anyone who might still be trapped by the rising water. The search teams quickly identified several individuals and helped them move out of the flooded zone to safer ground. Officials later confirmed that everyone in the encampment was safely accounted for. Some chose to leave the area with responders, while others remained nearby once the immediate danger had passed. After the drone confirmed that no additional people were trapped in the surrounding woods, crews cleared the scene The incident highlighted how severe storms and flash flooding can also affect vulnerable populations who may be living in areas where rising water can become dangerous very quickly.
Shit. Bro. Yeah, I'm just gonna go home now.
While emergency crews across the region were responding to flooded roads and water rescues, the same storm system created another dangerous situation in Cincinnati, Ohio. During the overnight thunderstorms, a powerful bolt of lightning struck a home in the Oakley neighborhood, sparking a fire that quickly spread through parts of the building. According to the Cincinnati Fire Department, firefighters were dispatched after reports of flames and smoke coming from the residents during the storm. When crews arrived at the scene, they found the house already burning heavily. Despite the difficult weather conditions, firefighters worked quickly to control the blaze and prevent it from spreading to nearby homes. Officials later estimated that the fire caused approximately $320,000 in property damage. Fortunately, no one inside the house was injured during the incident. However, the damage forced 2 residents and their dog to leave the home, as the structure was no longer safe to occupy. Fire investigators determined that the blaze was likely caused by a direct lightning strike, which occurred during the peak of the severe thunderstorms moving through the region. Lightning can generate extremely high temperatures, making it capable of igniting fires when it strikes buildings, trees, or electrical systems. The incident demonstrated how powerful storm systems can create multiple hazards at once. While some communities were dealing with rising floodwaters and water rescues, others faced entirely different dangers caused by lightning and severe electrical activity within the same storm. By March 9, 2026, the heaviest rain had moved out of the Ohio Valley, but the impact of the storms was still being felt across several counties in southwest Ohio and southeast Indiana. Emergency crews continued monitoring water levels in creeks and drainage channels, while cleanup efforts moved forward in areas that had been affected by overnight flooding. Local officials confirmed that flood warnings remained in place in parts of Butler and Warren counties, while other surrounding counties stayed under flood watches as runoff continued flowing through the region. In rural areas, standing water remained on some roads, and authorities urged drivers to remain cautious when traveling through low-lying routes. In Franklin County, Indiana, officials had issued a red travel advisory during the peak of the flooding, limiting road use to emergency personnel only. Schools in the county temporarily shifted to remote learning, allowing students and staff to stay safe, while road conditions were assessed, and emergency crews responded to multiple incidents. Public safety officials emphasized that flash flooding remains one of the most dangerous weather threats in the United States. Even after storms pass, water-covered roads, saturated ground, and hidden debris can continue to pose serious hazards. As communities begin returning to normal, local agencies are reminding residents to stay alert for changing weather conditions and to always avoid driving through flooded roads. If you found this report informative, please like the video, share it with others to help spread awareness, and subscribe for more updates on major weather events and natural disasters around the world.